Welcome to the BG podcast. We are live. Hope everyone's doing well. Many thanks as ever to everyone who's tuning in. Afraid that I'm suffering a few IT issues tonight. So I'm having to be back on the old laptop with the poor quality camera. If I struggle to stay on the Hangout for as long as I normally do, I will try and get back on. As I say, it's just been a very, very testing evening for IT, which is why we're starting a little bit later than previously. I've got Paul and Sherry with me. I can see Iris Tom has just joined, and hopefully Jay will be joining in very short order as well. So yeah, sort of a good panel with me tonight, and as always, lots to discuss. Going to try and make this one run for more like 90 minutes on a slightly tighter timescale tonight, but let's get through it and see how we're getting on. And I guess there's only one place we can start, and that's by bringing in Sherry to just talk about Amir Khan's 30-second destruction of Phil Le Greco. Sherry, what was your take on that, mate? Oh, Sherry, you there, mate?
Yeah, can you hear me, Tom?
Yeah, coming through.
Yeah, so obviously regarding the Amir Khan fight, I mean, I don't think any of us expected it to end that quickly or that abruptly. But you know what, fair play. It's one of those things. He caught him and he finished him off. I'm not going to discredit the win. It was always a comeback fight against a lower level opposition guy. Of course, look, he had the training camp, so he wasn't on short notice. So there's not really any excuse for him in that regard. I think Amir Khan was just way too fast, and he really wanted to get him out of there, so he took him out. And I can't really say much. You would agree. It doesn't really say much about where Khan is in terms of taking shots or how he's going to look against a guy who actually manages to fight back a bit. Confidence booster, and it's good for him to get a TKO and get back in the ring just to get back in the ring after 2 years. That's a blessing for him, isn't it, really? And of course, the fact that obviously getting a bit of a boost to know that this guy went the distance with Sean Porter. It took 3 rounds for Errol Spence to stop him. So those are all trivial things. Every fight's different, but when you talk about it, it does sound pretty good for Khan's confidence. But apart from that, there's not really much else to say about it, really. He just got a very impressive 30-second blowout against a lower level. I'm not sure what you guys think of it, but for me, it was impressive. But again, you got to take it in context of what it was. There's nothing to shout about too much.
Yeah, I guess that's a fair summary. He looked good, but the fight was over so quickly, it was hard to learn anything and, hard to really know where he's at. What was your take on the stuff that went on after the bell series, specifically with Kell Brook?
Yeah, I mean, this is what Khan's been doing for years, isn't it? He's been looking for any sort of excuse or any way to kind of get one up on Brook. And fair enough, the crowd were obviously a bit more on Khan's side because they were his crowd for his fight. And Brook did he made Brook look silly with what he was saying, and obviously the way the crowd were reacting and stuff. And Brook looked like kind of desperate in a way, the way he was trying to get involved and talk to Amir. But I mean, for Amir to say I'm chasing you and all that, we all know he's not chasing him. He's been avoiding the fight for years. Whatever his reasons are, I don't think he's scared of him, but whatever his reasons are, he's been avoiding that fight. And then for him to say I'm chasing you and then run out the ring, it doesn't really make any sense of it. But it was fun, and look, that's why this fight is a fight that the UK fans want to see, because this is what we're going to get. We get a lot of soap opera, a lot of back and forth between the two. It would be a great build-up. But again, I think it goes to show again, even for Eddie Hearn, you can see Eddie Hearn's smile on his face there. He's kind of in the middle ground now. Before, obviously, when Khan wasn't his client, he was very much willing to call him out and whatnot and embarrass him. But now I'm not going to say he's on Khan's side, because I don't think he is, but it's just more like you can see that Khan is obviously a much bigger name and he brings a bigger crowd and whatnot, and that the publicity around Khan is a lot more than it will be around Brook. So I think he's not rushing to make that fight right now, but I'm sure it's in his. But I think he wants to get Khan another fight at welterweight, see where he is, and with a decent level name, and then push for the fight with him and Brook at a catch weight.
Definitely. And one of the names that is being talked about as a future opponent for Khan is actually Adrien Broner, who was in action this week against Jesse Vargas. Did you happen to see that one, Sherry?
I caught up on the highlights of the fight. I actually fell asleep. I was planning to stay awake for the card, but just knocked out on the sofa, unfortunately. Old age is catching up with me. But I mean, yeah, look, I caught up on some of the highlights and stuff, and I saw that obviously it was a draw and stuff. But I definitely want to watch the whole fight. I mean, did you watch the whole fight, or did you just see the highlights of it?
I haven't seen it at all yet, mate. I've got it saved on the
You haven't
box.
seen it at all yet?
I'm going to look forward to watching it, but no, I haven't seen it at all, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, the general consensus was that it was actually a better than advertised fight. It ended up being a good little scrap, and that Broner actually let his hands go a bit, which is what we all kind of want and expect from him. But I mean, him and Khan would be a great fight. Again, the two quality names, the two flawed fighters who we know when they get in the ring, they can, if they well, Amir, whether he tries or not, he's entertaining because either he's going to get knocked out or he's going to go on and win a blistering point decision. But with Broner, he's a bit more of a wild card. Is he going to show up, or is he going to just put his hands up and not really throw? But I think him and Khan would make for a great fight stylistically. I don't see that fight happening in the UK though. Broner's not going to come over here. It would have to be in the USA if it did happen, and it would be, if anything, for Hearn, it would be a big boost because his Matchroom USA cards aren't doing very well in terms of ticket sales. So for Broner and him and Khan at the Barclays Centre would be a sellout, wouldn't it, realistically, from a business point of view? So that would be a massive card. And I think that would make sense to do it in America, even though Khan might be arguably the A side in the fight in terms of the billing and whatnot. I think it definitely make a lot more sense to do that fight in America because I don't think financially, I don't think any of us want to pay for a pay-per-view fight for Broner and Khan when there's no title on the line, there's no real depth to that fight. If that makes sense, just for the sake of having two names, it doesn't tickle my fancy to pay 1995 just for those two to fight. I'd much rather see that in the States where it's not pay-per-view.
Yeah, I think I certainly think that's a hard sell, despite Amir Khan's big comeback. So, of course, I have to ask you about the fight that was probably the biggest fight of the weekend: Frampton versus Donaire. Thankfully, Khan took care of business in quick fashion and allowed us to watch the entirety of that scrap. What was your take on the matchup?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's one of those ones where Frampton and Warren were obviously hyping it as a five-time four-division world champion coming over, but Donaire's not been the same fighter for a good few years, especially since he got knocked out by Walters. He's regressed even more, but that's not to take away from his accomplishments. He's obviously going to be in the Hall of Fame one day, and he was a great fighter from up until like 2013. But unfortunately, he's old now. He's 35 years old. He gave it a go, but he didn't really change anything. He was only fighting one way. And Frampton just outboxed him and even outfought him really on the inside and busted him up quite a bit. But obviously, for the fact for Belfast to get such a big name with so much history added to his name, over for a fight, that's a massive accomplishment in itself. And I mean, the respect between the two is it's great to see the admiration they both showed each other. But obviously, the fight itself didn't really live up to the hype, and it probably never was going to because that Nonito Donaire is not around. It hasn't been around for a good few years, but it was still entertaining enough. I sat through the whole fight, but it wasn't a barn stormer, or whatever they call it, or a barn burner, whatever Kell Brook says. It's one of those fights that obviously for Frampton it's a big name, but again you got to take it in context. It's an old Donaire. It's not the Donaire of old. Maybe it's time for him to retire now. I don't see why else he needs to fight on.
Yep. Yeah, hard to disagree there for Donaire. Lots to talk about Frampton Selby. I'm sure we'll come to that one in due course. Thank you for that, Seri. Let me go to Paul and bring Paul in. How you doing, Paul?
Yes, mate. Good, yeah. All good, man.
Fantastic. For you, what was the pick of the weekend in terms of the boxing action?
Yeah. The pick of the weekend. The pick of the weekend was probably, I don't know, it's probably Coyle. Coyle, I don't know, that's probably I don't know, Broner Vargas was a decent fight. I mean, look, Khan, what did we learn? We didn't learn, like Sherry just said, we didn't learn anything really, to be completely honest. I know we had a full camp and whatnot, and he got him out of there quicker than Spence did, and certainly Porter. I know he went the distance for Porter, but I mean, it's a couple of years later. It's 3 years on, so Greco's like 3 years older. I think he just caught him cold, to be completely honest. It was that quick, and he showed that he's got a hand speed, which we already knew. That was kind of like a little bit a little bit sort of like marred for me by his just ridiculous how, like, after the fight thing with Kel. I mean, like, I've joined Matchroom, so I'm chasing you. What? Like, it's like fucking sitting here watching it. I almost like thought maybe I was like tripping or something. Like, did I really just hear that? Did I really just hear Khan say he's chasing Brook? And then, like he said, like he like virtually sprints out the ring. It was just like insane. Kel looking a bit tubby, and a little bit desperate too. Khan will drain him down if it ever happens, which I doubt it will anyway. Khan will make sure he brings him down to 147. And Kel showed in the Spence fight he's not the same fighter at 147 anymore. I've said it before, the Triple G fight has done his career. Is, you know, I think that's going to be looked back at as the point at which Kell Brook kind of like took a turn for the worse and was never sort of like the same again. A bit of a wasted career, really, when you consider he only had the one real decent win, you know. Vargas Broner, I mean, I've got no interest in seeing fucking Broner again, to be honest, anymore. It's just like he seemed to have to be sort of like cajoled and galvanized over and over and over by Cunningham in that corner. It was like, you know, first 5 or 6 rounds, he didn't seem to really want to do anything. I thought Vargas won the fight. I got to be honest. I thought Vargas did enough to nick it. He did come on a bit and you know, turn it up a little bit in the mid to late rounds, Broner. But I thought Vargas did enough, to be completely honest, to win the fight. I don't know, Broner. I've never been a huge fan of Broner, you know, to be completely honest. I think at the lower weights, his power was making him look kind of spectacular. But who's he really beat at the end of the day, you know? Frampton looked good. I thought Frampton looked good. I tell you who I did think looked good was Gervonta Davis. I thought Gervonta Davis looked really, really good. I thought he showed a few things to his game that I haven't seen before. He abandoned the whole sort of like Floyd fucking shoulder roll thing, and he fought to his strengths. I thought his footwork was decent, good body work and stuff. And I was quite impressed by Gervonta Davis. He looked sharp. He looked really sharp. I don't know what everybody else thought, but yeah, that was. What else was there? There wasn't really much else, was there?
Yeah, I think that was a fair summary of it. As I say, I'm still to actually catch up on the US boxing. I echo your sentiments on Tommy Coyle, though. I thought he put in a very, very good performance, and I thought all the talk about him retiring afterwards was maybe a little bit premature, even though, you know, maybe he's achieved what he wanted to by winning that title. But yeah, some good bits this weekend, Paul.
Yeah, and a lot of sort of like real good sportsmanship to counteract the beef and the needle we normally get in boxing. You know, there was Coyle and you know, them two, like, you know, fucking really sort of like really, you know, respectful to each other. Then there was Frank Warren in the Billy Joe Saunders Martin Murray press conference. I think it was yesterday. Was saying if Frampton and Donaire got any closer, they were almost moving in together. We were wondering whether they were going to move in together. You know, Donaire sort of like after the fight was saying, "Oh, tough son of a bitch," and all this, like, which he is, Frampton. You know, he took a few shots. He's got real dog in him. I like Carl Frampton. Do you know what I mean? He's got a lot of skill, but he's got dog in him as well, hasn't he? Do you know what I mean? He's kind of like, he's a well-rounded fighter. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next, Frampton, to be fair.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of talk about the Lee Selby fight, Paul. I've always thought that was a very bad stylistic matchup for Cole.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I've always thought that, and I kind of still do. I like Frampton, like I say, but I didn't see anything that makes me change my mind on that particular thing. I don't think that'll happen. To be completely honest, I don't know. I don't know if there's enough in it for Carl. We'll see. I don't know. I could be wrong, but my gut instinct is that it won't happen. Same as Khan Brook. Khan doesn't want Cal Brook. Khan does not want to fight Cal Brook. That's fucking clear. And I'm not saying he's physically scared of the man, you know, like, but this is what people sort of like seem to get a bit screwed up, is like ducking somebody. I mean, you know, people duck for a number of reasons. And I think this beef between the two of them, this sort of like rivalry, has been going on for so long. There's the sort of like there's the where they're from, and you know, it's not the same as, you know, Khan going in with Canelo. Khan was expected to lose to Canelo. He knew he could come out with his reputation intact no matter what happened with Canelo. That's not the same with Brook. It would be hard for Khan to call. I think Brook beats the absolute brakes off of him if it was to happen. And I think Khan perhaps knows that. I think Khan perhaps knows that he's not got the beating of Cal Brook, I don't think. So I don't think it'll happen myself.
Yeah, sadly, I agree with your sentiment there. Okay, thanks, Paul. Let's try Jay. Jay, how you doing, mate? Give us a sound check.
Too bad. Can you hear me?
Yes. You're also suffering IT issues tonight.
Yeah, computers. I hate them.
That makes two of us, mate. Yeah, I did actually send you a link though, Jay. I think I've just checked my sent items. I thought I'd excluded you for, like, you know, the 10th time.
It wouldn't be the first time, yeah.
I know.
It's my computer. I'm on my phone.
He said to us he don't like you, Jay. But I don't
know
if we were supposed to be saying that or not.
I commented on his beard in one of the comments on one of his videos. That's what it was.
Right.
I've given it a bit of a trim today, Jay.
Yeah, it's a bit smooth. It's a bit more belly pre-fight.
Do you know what it is? I went to the barbers and got the ears lowered today, and because I was a bit shorter, the beard was like twice the length of the hair, and I thought, okay, better.
It looked like you walked out the wilderness the other day. Now it's a bit more pre-fight belly.
Pre-fight belly. Good stuff. Yeah. Good stuff. Jay, what caught your eye this weekend?
Well, considering the amount of names that were on offer this weekend, it was quite disappointing, really, from the outcome of those fights and what I saw. For me, Frampton really was the standout, to be honest. I've only watched bits of the Coyle fight, so if anything, I was a bit surprised Coyle won. So, you know, after seeing the result pretty much the next day, really. But yeah, for me, Carl Frampton looked good, looked impressive, looked better than he had done for a while. It wasn't a top end Donaire, really. You know, he wasn't at his best. He didn't look sharp. I don't think Donaire is really what he was since the defeat to Rigondeaux, really. Then he was flying high, and then, you know, he sort of got brought down a few pegs, then losing to Magdaleno, lost to, didn't he? And Walters, was it Walters?
Yep.
So it wasn't a really on top, high performing Nonito Donaire, but he's still a very, very good fighter. Frampton looked really good, I thought. You know, his footwork was really good. He was taking that little half step to get in, letting off his shots, getting back out quickly. He just looked a lot physically stronger, sharper, quicker. You know, his body looked tight, whereas if you look at Donaire, it was kind of, you know, not flabby, but a bit looser, not as I don't know, as fit. And I thought just Frampton looked really up for it. Now, whether this is the change in trainer, which has made the difference, being the home fighter, big crowd against him, but yeah, he looked good. But again, you know, we'll see how good he is when he steps up again to, you know, maybe a Santa Cruz third or whoever he might face.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he looked good. For me, beating Donaire at this stage of his career, it's not the same as beating an elite fighter. I think there's a distinct difference there, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's not Donaire at his best. He's not, but even Donaire not at his top end, he's still a good fighter. It's still a test. It's not the best test, but it's not the worst test. It's still a decent standard of opponent. So there's a lot to take from it, and he'll take a lot from it. He'll take a lot of confidence from that. I think maybe Donaire was a little bit too settled. He was a little bit too nice. He was a little bit too relaxed. You kind of get the feeling that sometimes maybe he's come over just purely for the experience and the payday, and he's kind of looking at it like that, really, because for me, he was too relaxed. He didn't look like pre-fight. He didn't look like a man. Although I welcome, fighters being approachable and being open to the public and, bringing the kids in on his open workout. I think that's all really good, positive stuff. But at the same time, you're going into a fight and you've got to be switched on for it, which makes me kind of think, is he fully committed there? Did he really want that? Was it life and death for him? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I can't. I'm agreeing with everything everyone says tonight. But again, I'm inclined to agree with you there, Jay. Yeah, there wasn't much versatility from Donaire, was there? There wasn't like a change of pace or like a second gear. And, Carl did get tired, and that maybe left one or two openings for Donaire. But, yeah, slightly underwhelming performance. I mean, by no means as underwhelming as Phil Greco, which I'm sure Irish Tom will be sure to remind me of in due course. But, yeah, nevertheless, an underwhelming performance.
Yeah, going to the Greco, wow. Well, like Paul said, we didn't really learn anything. Khan is still that same fighter with that weak chin that he's susceptible, and he always will be. You can't train to have a good chin. That's just one of those things, and it's plagued him at certain times throughout his career. But at the same time, offensively, he's very, very good, which has won him, the percentage of his fights, because he does have that tremendous hand speed and accuracy. But again, we didn't learn anything, But then, did we expect to learn anything? He's a comeback fight out, been out the ring for nearly 2 years. What do we expect? We don't expect him to go life and death with someone, when they're matchmaking in these scenarios, it's calculated. They're not stupid. They know who they're putting in the ring with him. They, however much they try and hype people up, we all know that, they're not necessarily at the level they should be. I thought he might have given him, more than 30 seconds than he did, but it's one of those things, isn't it? And to be honest, 30 seconds or not, it will please the casual fan that watches Amir Khan. It's explosive, it's a knockout, it's fast hands, it's and for Amir Khan will be very, very happy that he got an easy pay day and an easy night's work. So all round, to be honest, from a promoter's perspective and a fighter's perspective, it was great, because knockout, fast hands, easy night's work, crowd sort of left happy. Big crowds, sky exposure, and an unhurt, undamaged, easy night for the fighter. So all round, it's a promoter's dream, because they can build on that now for something bigger and better. And who that will be, I don't know. Because he can't keep fighting people like Le Greco. And I don't think Khan will fight another Le Greco. He's always a guy, whatever you say about him, that will always step up and will always fight those, he isn't scared of a fight and isn't scared to get involved and isn't scared to take on a big name. Because I think once a fighter has, you got to admire him in a way that, he was devastatingly knocked out by Garcia, devastatingly knocked out by Prescott, devastatingly knocked out by Canelo. It takes a lot for a fighter to come back after that and still have confidence and still not be scared to get in with good fighters, because of course they're going to be aware that they also, like us, know that they are susceptible to being knocked out. So you kind of got to give Amir Khan a lot of credit for that.
Certainly. What did you make of the whole thing with Brook afterwards?
It was a bit awkward, really, wasn't it? I think it was a bit awkward for Brook, really. And I'm a big Brook fan, but it was. I mean, I think Amir Khan did what, I know I watched your video and you were saying he couldn't get out of the ring quick enough, and he was off quick. But I mean, and him chasing, he's got to say something, he's hyped up, emotions are kind of running differently after a fight. So sometimes things are said where maybe when on reflection, he might not have said that. But, I kind of liked it. I kind of liked the way he came out, and because, it's the first time really we've seen them in sort of close quarters where there's some sort of verbal sparring, even though Kel didn't really get much off really to say. And he said what he had to say, and he got out of there, and he kind of knows, Kell Brook needs Amir Khan. I don't think Amir Khan really needs Kell Brook. The only way that fight sort of happens is because of pressure from public, but as far as bank accounts and names and big fights, Amir Khan doesn't really need Kell Brook. Amir Khan can nail a fight in the States with anyone. He's well known throughout, 2 million followers on Twitter or whatever. He's well known. He doesn't need Kell Brook necessarily. And what has, it's a big fight, possibly in terms of money. But I think any fight that Amir Khan is involved in, there is going to be big money involved. So I don't necessarily think he needs Brook. Brook doesn't have that advantage. He's not a household name like Amir Khan. Amir Khan's known to grandmas and mothers and daughters and brothers and sisters and cousins. He's known to everyone, especially through his antics in the jungle. But then he's got a name in the States as well. And there's plenty of people that will fight him. And when Eddie Hearn says, there will be people who want to fight him, he's right that he says that because he's susceptible to being knocked out, and he's always excited. I still go back to Amir Khan, Marcus Medina fight. It was one of the best fights I've seen in a long time. It was an amazing fight, edge of your seat stuff, and that's what you get from Amir Khan. So, Amir Khan's in the driving seat. He can dictate when he wants this fight, if he wants this fight. He doesn't need Kell Brook. And sadly, you can see the desperation coming across a little bit from Kell Brook, that because he knows he needs it. That is way, way far his biggest payday ever, and that's the one he's looking for to set him up into retirement, because you can see that he's obviously put on weight, and you can see it in his face. And Kell Brook, I think now he's getting to the point where he's kind of, whatever bullshit they tell you about newfound vigor for the game and for fighting, and he knows he just wants that one big payday, and that guy will be out of the sport and you won't see him again, because his love has never really been there. I'm sure he loves boxing, but his discipline for training and in and out of camp has never really been there, and it's always been an issue. And it's almost like I'm just holding on just to squeeze the last remnants of what I've got left, and so for him, I wouldn't be surprised if he took the Amir Khan fight, won, made a shitload of money. You wouldn't see him again, because that's just the golden ticket, isn't it? Just to send him on his way.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that from a promotional perspective, Khan is probably a lot easier to match than Brook. Like, obviously, fighters are going to fancy their chances against Khan, and he's got such a big name and brand worldwide that he's probably bringing a little bit more to the party even. But I would say, if Khan retired in 2 or 3 years without facing Kell Brook, from a legacy perspective, does that affect his legacy? Every time people talk about Amir Khan in the future, will they always be referencing Kell Brook, or will he not really give a monkeys about that, I guess?
Well, I think the public and the boxing fans will think more about it than Amir Khan will, because it depends on what Amir Khan's what his views are and what his positioning is when it comes to Kell Brook. Does he really think, well, he's not that great, I don't rate him, what has he done, is he a name? I'd rather go out and fight Pacquiao, or I'd rather go out and fight, get a revenge against Garcia or Thurman, or you know, whoever it may be, and he might justify that to himself as, look, I fought Pacquiao, I fought Garcia, I fought Thurman, I fought Spence. You know, it depends how he looks at it, and whether, you know, it is, you know, a lot of fighters, I think sometimes it's not, it becomes a point once you've lost and you've won titles and you've lost titles and you've fought in Vegas and New York, etc. So does it come to a point where it's just purely about money? You know, is it purely about getting out healthy? You know, does it really does it really matter about those things? Is it really going to haunt him? I'm not so sure. And I don't think it would haunt Kell Brook, in all honesty.
Yeah. Okay, interesting one. I kind of think that their names are so closely linked together that it would be a bit of a mark against both of them if that fight never happened.
But like, if you look at, it's like kind of like on a different scale. But if you look at Mayweather, Pacquiao, you know, probably could have made that fight numerous times over the years. He chose to do it late on, but you know, if he hadn't have fought Pacquiao, would Mayweather have walked away and gone, you know, everyone thinks that I didn't fight Pacquiao, so am I really the greatest of all time and am I the best ever, blah, blah, blah. No, he fought Pacquiao not because he wanted a win against Pacquiao. He fought Pacquiao because the money was so extreme that he knew this is just going to make me so much money, and grossed his biggest purse to date. You know, so, you know, and he left it right at the end. You know, I don't think, you know, if it had been otherwise, he may have fought Pacquiao at his peak, you know, and to today that solidified him being one of the greatest of all time. So I'm not so sure. I don't think it would. I don't think it would keep Amir Khan awake at night. It might keep Kell Brook awake at night, but I don't think it keeps Amir Khan, gives him sleepless nights at all.
No, I can imagine that he's resting very comfortably, given the career he's had so far.
If he was a fighter that had never done nothing and never won nothing, you know, and not really reached possibly the potential he could have. But I think one thing with Amir Khan, you will look back and go, you know, he reached his potential. You know, he reached his potential with someone with a dodgy chin, but someone that's got super fast hands. He kind of did. He has reached his potential. He's won world titles. You know, there's certain fighters that would look back and that we will look back and go, did they really, you know, reach the potential with the skill set that they had or with the attributes they had? And there's a lot of fighters we say no. But Amir Khan, with that chin, I think he's done fantastically well, and I think he'll be looked back on someone as a very good fighter with a lot of good qualities, but also, you know, that negativity which is his chin, but which makes him a box office draw.
Yep. Yeah, I think he's certainly always been that exciting fighter with what he brings. Okay.
I think the thing with Kell as well, sorry, just to interrupt, the thing with Kellers as well, he's kind of cornered a little bit at 154 if you don't take... I completely agree with what Jay just said. I think Kell needs Amir much more than the other way around. What else is Kell going to do? I mean, the reality is Amir Khan could take... There's a few fights that Amir Khan could take now that he'd make good money from. Not really the same with Kell Brook. And not only is it not the same with Kell Brook, but the fights that are there for him, the beasts, man. What's he going to face, Charlo or Hurd? I can't see it, man. I can't see it. I don't think he can make 147. I mean, he perhaps can, but I don't think he can really healthily make 147 again. So I think he is kind of cornered in a way.
Yeah, I certainly think that's right. That you know, if he doesn't face Khan, the big fights he's in against, he's going to have to go up against absolute killers where he'll be a huge underdog, and he'll probably have to do that for half the purse. So you can see why he wants it. I think
that fight would be a good one, though. Just saying that, I think Broner would be a good fight. I think I definitely would. I think it's an easy win for Amir Khan. I think he absolutely schools Broner. But after what I saw at the weekend against Broner, you know,
They'll need to
Broner's-
make that pay-per-view, though, to make it happen. And
You probably could with Broner because he's got such a big mouth and he can sell a fight. You know, he can definitely sell a fight. And if they brought it over here, I think that could well easily be a pay-per-view fight. I think they could sell that as a pay-per-view, definitely. Because Broner's just too brash, isn't he? All mouth, no substance, or
I must bring Irish Tom in. He's been waiting very patiently. So thank you for that. Let me bring in Irish Tom. Irish, give us a sound check, mate.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Sorry about the delay in getting you on there. You have to blame Jay, which I know you do for most things in life. How was your boxing weekend?
We all know why you delayed bringing me in now. Let's be honest. You've been feeding the boys lines there in the chat.
About the LaGreco pick.
Oh my God, worst of all time. Gossip, you fall for Eddie Hearn's shtick every single time. Every single time. That was the most pathetic one. I can't believe that. That was dreadful. To think that LaGreco was going to be the better fight. Oh my sweet Jesus. No, he was rubbish. Like, and the thing is, it's not like just Amir Khan looked like he got lucky. Did you see the state of the Greco before the fight? He was shitting himself. Knew he was completely out of sorts and had no chance. Look, he hasn't fought somebody with a pulse in a long time, and he was never any good. So how Eddie Hearn managed to convince people that was going to be a competitive fight is fucking beyond me, man. Eddie can sell snow to the fucking Eskimos. He really can.
Yeah. I mean, as I did say last week, Hearn referring to him as a what was the word? I think Hearn used it. World class.
World class. Yeah.
He said he's not elite, but he's near world class.
Yeah, that's what he said, isn't it? Yeah, he's not elite, but he is world class. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, dear.
Yeah. No, so that was to me that's what is to be expected. The best. I didn't see the Broner fight. I saw a couple of rounds of it. That seems to be a decent fight. I saw the two other American fights. The best performance of the weekend was for me, Gervonta Davis. That just shows you, lads. Look, my pound for pound top 10 are doing very well. Gervonta Davis looking excellent in at number 9, doing very good. I think Benavidez in at number 10. You guys are slagging. You just watch these boys winning world championships, looking elite, beating the piss out of lads. Called it about Amir Khan versus Phil Greco. Called the scorecards exactly on the Frampton card last weekend. Pretty much called every single boxing match all the way back to the Klitschko AJ fight. Telling you boys,
you did.
Don't be messing with Irish.
Lomachenko, though, did you?
Yeah, exactly.
I picked Lomachenko. I picked Floyd. Unlike Paul.
Fucking hell.
Oh my God!
I kept Brook. I picked Brook to be beaten by Spencer. I picked every single one.
He don't
correct.
even know his name.
Klitschko. You want to see my betting balance, boys? Fucking through the roof.
Well, I mean, you picked Eubank to beat Groves, and you were going to bet on that, but then you forgot to place the bet.
Yeah, so that just shows you how good I am. That even when I get it wrong, I don't even lose money on him.
It's casual. He just called
elite,
out
lads.
Spencer.
No, he said he bet money on Groves to beat Eubank, but he forgot to do it. That's what he said.
No, the other way around. Eubank to beat Groves.
Joke.
I've got a good comment in the chat from MB. It's not difficult, Irish, when you back every single scenario.
Hey, I'm no Shep. I let people know on my Twitter when I'm betting before every time. People can look at my Twitter tweets. I let them know.
Good stuff. Well, we'll trouble you for some predictions later, but give us a word on Frampton, Tom. What did you take from that performance, and where do you see him?
I thought it was a decent performance. Nothing spectacular. It's the kind of same old Frampton, but you're up against Donaire there. Donaire is not able to get off with his jab 1-2 in the ring. He just wasn't able to. When he got him onto when he was on the ropes, man, he hit Frampton with a number of very tough uppercuts. He really did hurt Frampton with a couple of uppercuts. I thought up close when he was on the ropes that Donaire did very well, but Frampton's just a better boxer in the center of the ring by far, and it's precisely how the fight should have went if Frampton was fully fit. So we'll see. God, Frampton saying afterwards, I really want the Windsor fight, and it's like, who gives a shit about where your fight's going to be? Who are you fighting? Imagine calling people out. He didn't even call people out. He was calling out a fucking venue. Imagine somebody saying, "Oh, I really, really want to fight," in the Echo Arena, and everybody "Oh, what the fuck," So we'll see who he fights. I don't know if it'll be the winner of the two boys in Leeds, but that would be the most logical one to do. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we've spoken about that one before, Tom. If I'm correct, you kind of agree with me for once that in terms of styles, Selby is potentially all wrong.
Potentially, but I think Selby is dead at that weight. So I don't know if he's still going to be doing it. I think he should move up, Selby. I don't think he's able to make weight healthily, and I think his performances have gone downhill. So I think that while stylistically he's got the goods for Frampton, probably, he may not be able to have it at that weight any longer. We'll see how he gets on against Josh Warrington, but yeah, I think that I think that he should be a featherweight now, or a super featherweight. He's just too fucking tight at that weight.
He's just too big, I guess.
Yeah,
we shall see. Okay, we'll pause it there. That's to cover last week's boxing. We're moving it at a fair pace this week because I've got to get on and off shortly after 10 o'clock. Let me move it on to some of the news in the sport, and perhaps let's stick with Irish when we've got him on. Tom, big news breaking today that Keith Thurman has vacated his WBC belt. Slightly frustrating, as you kind of would have hoped that sort of Thurman-Spence unification fight could have been made, and maybe this makes it more unlikely. But it does leave us with Danny Garcia versus Sean Porter as the fight that should take place for his vacant belt. And then Keith can always come back as champion emeritus and fight the winner. What's your take on the whole saga, and does it create a good fight out of it all?
Well, at least it's a fight we haven't seen before. What's the story with the WBC? What they seem to be in the thing of doing now is they give the fella who loses a title shot, they make him immediately either on the final eliminator for a mandatory. They've just done it with Luis Ortiz and Dillian Whyte. So who wants to see Danny Garcia against Errol Spence or Keith Thurman again? Or even the Sean Porter one, maybe, but at least Porter's gone off and beat someone. But so the WBC are a bit of a joke like that, I think, at the moment.
Stavern as well.
Stavern as well, yeah. Why the fuck should Stavern ever get a shot again at a world title? You got to go and beat somebody. So it's look, Thurman, if he's injured, he's injured. Who cares? There's plenty of welterweights there to make fights. There's we got the Jeff Thorne and the one. Crawford coming up. Yeah. We got Josh Kelly in there. He's going to clear them all out. Conor Ben as well. Yeah, Conor Ben is he probably will go up to 154 by the time he's at world level. But I didn't watch that card. That was a very poor card, I think, the one. But Frank, there's something I got to talk about. Is the fucking Tete fight. Oh my God! Did anybody see the Tete fight?
Well, I was recording my Amir Khan post fight and watching it with one eye, so I can't say I fully endured the pain. But a lot of people telling me it's like the worst fight they've ever seen, and that sort of thing. Tom?
Yeah, I think that might be the one of the. I'm trying to. I think that might be the worst fight I've ever seen. Like, I don't know, to make that guy a mandatory. The size of him, that guy must be barely 5 foot. He was tiny. Like, he looked at least 3 weight divisions below Tete. And he just fought in the back foot the whole time. And, you know, people are saying, oh, you got to, you know, I'm going to give out about that. I think he was an Argentinian guy. But Tete was rubbish. Like, I don't care. You look at an elite fighter. We say that Tete is one of these pound for pound. We say, you know, look at what happens when Floyd's elite pound for pound. Floyd is a very good technical back foot boxer and all that, counter puncher. But when he had to, he go on the front foot. Look what he did to Conor McGregor, Paul's favorite boxer of all time. You know, he went in the front foot, hands up, and just beat the crap out of him. What the fuck is the problem with Teddy? Does he not know how to put his hands up and walk a guy down? It was pathetic. It was, I don't know, like, just one of the worst fights I've ever seen. Like, and that, after coming on the back of 2 good fights, it kind of, you know, it must have, I just, you know, what kind of matchmaking is that? What kind of matchmaking? Like, that's a number of them. Like, we had Terry Flanagan fighting your man, is it Fafana or whatever his name was? And he was
Zonky Fana, I think was the chap.
Zonky Fana, and he was like about 2 or 3 weight divisions below hand. And these guys come out and they're good enough to stink the joint out and not get killed. But it's like, you know, in that fight, Flanagan should get criticism for not being able to put him away, and Tete should get criticism for boxing this guy. What the hell? It was just awful.
Yeah, from what I can see, you'd have to say that the guy was very negative, but I do totally agree with your point. Whilst I'd say 60 to 70% of the blame is on the opponent, I would have liked to have seen Tete do a hell of a lot more, go through the gears, put it on him. And, you know, the fact that he wasn't there to fight isn't really enough considering the obvious gap in class that you would expect. So, yeah, I do agree with your sentiment there, Tom. The panel about the Keith Thurman news. Does anyone have a specific reaction or thought process towards that one?
Well, I just wonder why he didn't do it sooner. Like, you know, he's been fucking injured for forever and a day. Like, he's been holding this title fucking hostage for how long now? I don't know why he didn't do it sooner. That's all.
Yeah. I guess it's kind of his hand's been forced, and he was probably in a position where if he didn't do it sooner, he'd get stripped. What about Garcia Porter, Paul? Is that a fight that you look forward to?
Yeah, it's a decent fight. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the better fights that can be made. I was kind of hoping for Spence Thurman. I mean, hope against hope, I guess. But yeah, it's a decent fight.
Good stuff. And the other breaking news, and Tom did refer to it there, was still on the WBC front. It looks like Luis Ortiz, Dillian Whyte has been mandated for the WBC. It looks like Wilder will fight Dominic Breazeale, and that you know, Whyte versus Ortiz would serve as a final eliminator for the WBC. So, kind of an interesting situation where Whyte is final eliminator for the IBF, final eliminator for the WBC, and there's talk of him taking other fights as well, like the Povetkin fight. For what it's worth, I really cannot see the Ortiz fight happening, but it would be very entertaining if it did. Seri, let's bring you in on that one, mate. Is that a fight that you'd be interested in seeing, and how realistic do you think it is at this stage?
Yeah, I mean, the Dillian Whyte and Ortiz fight, like you just said, I don't see that happening. Hands are not an idiot. Dylan Whyte will fight anyone. I think that's pretty evident to see. I don't think he's scared of anyone either. But Ortiz, even with whatever, you know, age he is and all that, he would beat Whyte pretty handily. He's just a better boxer. I think that the best case scenario from a Eddie Hearn point of view, and to build a potential mega fight in the UK again, or in his eyes a box office attraction for a rematch would be to fight Kubrat Pulev. If he wins that, then he's in line for AJ, isn't he? So that's probably a better plan than to take a bigger risk fight against Ortiz and then go fight Wilder. You know what I mean? It might be that, and as much as Eddie Hearn was pushing for that to be the case, but for Wilder to face Whyte, now the way things have kind of ended up with the IBF, wanting the Pulev and Whyte fight as an eliminator, it might make more sense from Hearn's point of view to make that fight, because not only does that pretty much guarantee that Pulev will come over to the UK to fight Whyte on pay-per-view properly, more than likely. That'll get him a massive payday and to get Hearn a lot of money. That also sets up a potential rematch between Whyte and AJ if Whyte beats Pulev, rather than going the other way. Either way, it's going to make a lot of money, isn't it? So I think the Whyte fight against Ortiz is too much risk for not only Whyte's prospects at winning a world title or challenging for a world title, but also for Hearn to risk Whyte as a no, I don't think Whyte's a top name, but he's kind of getting there, isn't he? As matchroom goes, there anyway. So there is just AJ and Whyte, isn't it really? And that is through Whyte's name being linked to AJ ever since the initial match 2.5 years ago. So like I said, I think the potential, what makes sense from a business point of view, would be to go the IBF route, fight Pulev, potentially the UK, potentially on pay-per-view. And if he wins that somehow, then you've got that mega super rematch that we've all been clamoring for. I'm joking, but it's one of those ones, isn't it? Which I don't think they're going to go the WBC route at this point. I think it makes a lot more sense for them to go for the IBF and try and get the Pulev fight on in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're both tough fights for Dillian Whyte, actually. I think Dillian's in quite a difficult position, really, because the 3 fights he's been linked with, Ortiz, Povetkin and Pulev, I think it's quite possible that he'd lose to all 3 of them, actually. Yeah. I think Dillian Whyte is an improving fighter, and I think he's better than I thought he was. But I think to beat those sort of names, you've probably got to be more like a top 5 fighter, and I don't really see that in him at this stage. Part of me wonders, when you've got all of these risky fights around you, aren't they inclined to just wait it out and wait to cash in that big money rematch against AJ? Because I know the Pulev fight seems the most likely, but he doesn't really have to win a final eliminator to fight AJ, does it? I mean, you kind of get the impression he can fight AJ whenever they want to make it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that rematch sells itself, doesn't it? Just based off the excitement and build-up of the first fight they had back in 2015. But I think what you got to bear in mind is, Tom, as well, from whether it's all just Eddie Hearn talking it up or not. The point is that AJ's gonna have a shitload of mandatories now, isn't he? Moving forward, whether that's WBO, IBF, WBA, all of them are going to start calling the mandatories, and that's when he's going to have to start either thinking about vacating belts or facing mandatories. So by all means, Whyte can sit there and wait around and fight other people and just keep his rating. But we're probably looking at 2020 then, aren't we? Realistically, 2019. If AJ's only fighting twice a year potentially, then Dillian Whyte's been waiting around a long time for that big fight. And if he does have serious ambitions of winning a world title, then he's going to do whatever it takes to get to that world title, whether that's through Wilder or AJ. But there are literally only 2 options, isn't there, at this point? They're both the belt holders at the minute. So either way, it doesn't look like a very big and tough ask for not only Dillian Whyte to get in a position to challenge for a world title, let alone win one. But either way, Dillian Whyte, I've got respect for him because he's pretty, he's straight talking. He does talk a lot of rubbish, but I mean, literally. But I mean, he's one of those guys who will fight anyone, and I think he genuinely means that. And I think he believes his own hype. And what I mean by that is, I think he thinks he's better than he is. But I respect that about him, the fact that he's not scared of anyone. He'll go in there, and if he loses, he loses. He'll go out on his shield, same way he did against AJ. But I respect him, and I think either way, whoever he fights, whether it's Ortiz or Pulev, I don't think he beats either of them. But I think he's going to go out there and do his best, and that's all you can ask for, really, isn't it?
Certainly, yeah. He's a character inside and outside the ring. Jay, let's bring you back in. What do you think is the most realistic route, and from a fan perspective, which one would you be most interested in seeing?
I'd like him to fight Ortiz. I think it all depends on what sort of Ortiz is always going to be tricky for everyone, but But I think it depends on what sort of Ortiz turns up. Again, he's probably going to be another 6 months older, which would lead him to free bus pass territory. So personally, I'd like him to fight Ortiz. I think he's a guy that does kind of feel overshadowed by Anthony Joshua, especially being in that Matchroom stable. I think he almost wants to carve out a name for himself, and wants to prove without going through Joshua so quickly that he is one of the elite heavyweights in the world, whether he is or whether he's not. I think he really fancies Wilder, and I think he'd like to get to Wilder before Joshua does. Just to say, there's a lot to be said where he can say, well, I beat Wilder. I'm the first to beat Wilder. I beat Wilder before Joshua. I fought him when Joshua. There's so much there that he can really play on without going through Joshua. So, me personally, I'd say forget Pulev, forget the IBF, go for Ortiz, go for the kill, just go for the big name, the biggest names you can possibly get, which he seems to clamour for, and I think he believes that he is and I think it's true that he is a better fighter than he was. I think he because of the work he's putting in his conditioning and the way he talks about he's taking his fighting and his career as a fighter a lot more serious now. I think that proves to him that he feels there's so much more to come from him, and I think he feels like he hasn't really shown or hasn't had the opportunity to really show, what he thinks or how he thinks he's developed. So me personally, go for Ortiz, beat Ortiz, start getting onto Wilder, and have the Wilder fight. I think I've always said that Wilder should fight Dillian Whyte, because again, it just builds up that potential for the Joshua fight, and Joshua's not going to fight Wilder anytime soon. So, and as Sherry said, Joshua's going to have mandatories that he's got to go through. It could be 18 months, 2 years, 3 years before Whyte actually gets a shot at Joshua. So yeah, go for that only available title and try and rip it out of Wilder's hands. And then if he did that, if he managed to beat Ortiz, beat Wilder, become the WBC champion, be the first person to beat Wilder, to knock him out, he's got a bit of power on his side there. He's got a bit of a pulling power on his side for that rematch with Joshua, and he knows it would make him even more money than he would if he took it next month.
Absolutely. Yeah, I guess one of the problems with the WBC, though, is even if he were to win that fight against Ortiz, how long would the WBC take to call that mandatory and to actually enforce it on Wilder? It would be late 2018 by the time Whyte were to beat Ortiz. Even if he were to beat Ortiz, it could easily be 2020, couldn't it?
Yeah. But I think there's pressure building on Wilder massively now, because if you look at if anyone watched that interview with Lou DiBella, and he just jumped around, questions like massively, when he was asked about will Wilder be fighting Brazil, and he was like, well, it's obvious that that's who he's going to fight, and there's only so long Wilder, Joshua doesn't need to necessarily, but Wilder, who's he going to fight? You're going to fight Brazil. What then is he going to fight? Baby Miller, possibly. It's those fights are not gonna keep the audiences satisfied or keep the boxing community satisfied. They need something that's really gonna, really set fire on both sides of the Atlantic. So I almost think that Wilder's running out of time after Brazil. He's really got to do something. Okay, he fought Ortiz, which was a big step up, and he did really well to do it, but he's flawed. But regardless, that sort of doused the fire a little bit of who has Wilder fought and who is he going to fight. But if he starts pulling out, at Molina's, the Brazils, these fighters that Joshua has destroyed in the past, it's going to be very difficult for him. He's got to make a move, and he has to make it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I guess Wilder isn't getting any younger. I mean, he's certainly not old, but his career has been allowed to develop at a very, very slow pace in terms of level of opponent, etc. And, I guess if he leaves it another year or two before he has the sort of biggest fights available to him, then, there is a risk that he could see his prime fall out in front of him, I guess. So
but the thing is, it's not all so much that. I think it's almost like Wilder's done a lot of talking of late, and whatever side you believe is true or whatever, whatever it is, but Wilder's done a lot of talking. So if you do that amount of talking, you can't be fighting Brazil, you can't be fighting a Spitzker, a Gerald Washington, a Burmeister. You cannot be fighting those names. You've got to really pull out that big name. Joshua can afford to do it because you can put a GOAT in the ring with Joshua and he'll get paid, 20 million quid. So, and there's always going to be the fanboy and so much hype and so many supporters for Joshua. He can sort of get away with it now. And that Klitschko fight sort of solidifies what he's going to do in the future. He can sort of get away with it and people will still buy and he'll still make money and he'll still be seen as the A side. Wilder can't do that. He just seriously can't do that. He has to fight. And the thing is with Dillian Whyte's a big talker. He talks a good game. There would be a massive, great builder. He's a Brit. You can kind of tie it into Joshua a little bit, but when he can't tie things into Joshua, like fighting Brazil, all Joshua turn around and says, "Well, I did him fights ago," and that's what they'll keep saying, and then everyone will start going, "Well, yeah, he did him ages ago, knocked him out. So why are you fighting him now? When you talk all this big talk?" And that's the problem there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly going to be pressure to see some of these big fights made soon, and let's hope they do. Chaps, I was going to move it forward to discuss next week's boxing. It's a quiet week. Eddie Hearn has a card in the States headlined by Danny Jacobs versus I'm probably going to pronounce the name wrong. I think it's Maked Selecki. Has anyone seen this guy fight at all? Nope.
No.
I've had a look at his record. To be fair, he's been in with some names that I recognise. Interestingly, Boxrec have him listed as a super welterweight. He's 26-0. Boxrec actually have him as the number 4 ranked super welterweight in the world. They have him above like Saddam Ali, Kell Brook, Julian Williams, Liam Smith, etc., which is interesting. He beat Jack Kulkai last time out. Hugo Centeno Jr. he beat. Gregor Proska. Yeah, I mean, there's something. I mean, looking at him, his record suggests that he's a light puncher. I presume he's going to be a slightly smaller man than Daniel Jacobs, but I haven't seen too much of him. Is there any interest in this fight? It really seems to have flown under the radar.
It's an easy win. It's an easy night's work. Thanks very much.
Easy night's work. That seems to be the consensus. On the Box Nation side, Bradley Skeet fights for the Euro title, I think, on Saturday night. But the fight for me of the weekend, and I'm not saying it's a great fight because I don't believe it's a competitive fight. I'm not going to make that mistake again. But the fight for me is Irish Tom's boy, Jarrell Miller.
The future heavyweight champion of the world, you mean?
I'm not sure if Tom had him on the pound-for-pound list.
He had him on the future heavyweight champion of the world list. I'll tell you that.
He's definitely on the pound-for-pound list. Tom, we need your confirmation. Tom.
Jay is a bum, and shut your face, McGregor.
There you go. Yeah. He said it. I'm going to get it down. I'm going to sample it, and then when he doesn't get it, I'm going to keep playing it.
He didn't deny it, though. He didn't deny it, I noticed.
Because he knows he said it. Future heavyweight champion of the world.
He might not be on the pound-for-pound list, but he's certainly on the pound and pound list because...
Oh, that's a good one.
What... I've been working on that. What I've been hearing is he's actually looking to come in heavy against the Par because the Par's quite a big guy. Tom, are you interested in this one?
I am interested in it. I think it's a reasonably okay fight.
Toughest fight of his career, isn't it?
I don't know. He's had a number of these. Like, is Dupar any better than Gerald Washington? Much of a muchness. Is he any better than Marius Fack? Maybe a bit, but much of a muchness.
Over a reigning world heavyweight champion, mate.
Who does?
Dupar.
His win over a reigning world heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
Who?
You should know this, being a hardcore.
Tyson Fury.
Manuel Char.
Char.
Manuel Char. Fuck's sake.
The Paul beat him by a majority decision.
Fuck's sake. Get the fuck out of here with that. No, I think it's a decent fight, but he'll run through him. I think he'll run through him. But Jay won't give him any benefit of the doubt because he's not able to box in the back foot. So, we have all these kind of Nancy boxing people who don't like come forward fighters. By Jay's logic, Jarrett Hurd would never win a world title.
Nancy? Fuck you now.
It's not the back. It's just the inability to move his head, which usually is a bit of an issue. Especially when
he is a hard fight for any heavyweight on the planet. I'd like to see Joshua do 12 rounds with Darryl Miller.
It doesn't move. That's
anyway, he's a drug cheat as well.
I'm not sure he just walks through to par, though, to be completely honest. I mean, if you look at how long Wilder took to get him out of there, and also, didn't he knock out fucking Hellenius recently, the par?
He did knock out Hellenius, yeah. So he had a bit of a spell, to be honest. He had that fight against Wilder where he emerged with credit. I think he took a roided up Erkan Tepe to a split decision. Majority decision win over dominant heavyweight champ Manuel Char. Knocked out Robert Hellenius, who Dillian Whyte obviously then went on to struggle with. So he had a bit of a purple patch, but then he bumped into a Mr. Alexander Povetkin with a
roided up Povetkin. Yeah.
And you kind of wonder, 37 years old, coming off the Wilder fight, coming off the Tepe fight, now having that Povetkin knockout, he's taken some fairly big whacks in the last year or two, hasn't he?
Oh, is he 37? I didn't know. Yeah, and he took that Povetkin fight on like an hour and a half's notice or something, didn't he, as well?
Something not far off that.
Yeah. Like 40 minutes notice. You come in Nike Air Max and that. You didn't even have time to grab his fucking boots or nothing like. Yeah. So
I detect he got a few quid for that, but yeah, but he needed to get a few quid for it. Let's put it that way.
God, yeah, man, yeah.
He's a good fighter on his day, though, Paul. I mean, I think on his day he's a top 20 heavyweight, but he's one of these top 20 heavyweights who won't ever be a top 10 heavyweight, And Tom made a fair point. He kind of fits a similar profile to this Marius Wack, Fred Cassie type opponent, known as durable, got a bit of something, but probably not got the offense of an elite fighter.
He's got a decent jab. His jab was the main thing that I thought it kept him in that fight against Wilder. Depar. He's not got a bad jab. But you make a good point about his age, and he has taken quite a lot of fucking punishment recently. So Irish might be right. Big Baby might just fucking grunt and fucking walk forward in his in that famous style of his, that famous non-movement style.
I'll tell you what, though, to be fair to Irish, right? I'm not saying I could pick this guy to beat a Joshua or Wilder because of his defense, right? But what I would say is, just from a run-of-the-mill heavyweight contender, can you think of a guy you'd want to fight? 20-plus stone, high output, doesn't give you a second of room, durable, heavy-handed. He'd be an absolute nightmare to fight. And although I would pick someone like a Wilder or a Joshua to beat him, imagine if he got in on Wilder and Joshua and just sat on them and didn't give them an inch. So I don't think either of them have the game to deal with that if he was fully able to implement that style. I think the issue is he'd get clocked on the chin walking in, but that's another story, I guess.
Well, so are you saying, Gossip, that he wouldn't win a world title?
If Wilder or Joshua was fighting Miller, I would pick Wilder or Joshua. However, I would give Miller a chance because I think the stylistic threat he poses is, you know, a real problem, and I think it's something that a lot of heavyweights would be very ill-equipped to deal with.
Yeah, I think
Super
he's more of a threat to Joshua than Wilder. I think just because Joshua doesn't like the high tempo and he can't take it, and I think Wilder's got a better gas tank. So I think stylistically he's less suited to Joshua. But the whole thing with him is that we see him in with a big puncher, and has he got one of these granite chins like we suspect he has? Because if he has a granite chin, like, the big boys are going to be in for a tough, long night. He might be good enough to win, but they're going to have to. If he has a chin, he's not an easy fight for any of the big boys, except for Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte schools him.
Yeah, no, he is a tough fight for any of them, definitely. But I think Tom's got it spot on. It's all about that chin for him, you know, and how he deals with punches, because he's got to have a good chin the way that he fights. He's going to need to have one hell of a chin. Let's put it that way.
Sorry to backpedal, but on the Dillian Whyte thing, I think actually that he might beat Pulev. Pulev's been. I think the Pulev fight is the one he'll take if he takes one of them, because Pulev's been quite inactive recently. Like, fought once. I don't think he's fought this year. I think he fought once last year. Didn't he? Fought Kevin Johnson. Went the distance with Kevin Johnson. I think once in 2016, maybe twice in 2016 was the Chisora fight. In 2016, I mean, my point is he's not getting any younger. He's been quite inactive. And Dylan is improving. He's definitely improving. So I'd give him a chance in that fight, Dillian Whyte.
No, I disagree. If Pulev is if he's 80% of the fight, it's an easy fight for him.
Yeah,
just jab the head off him all night. It's really easy stylistically.
If you look at momentum, Pulev is, you know, getting older and taking dodgy fights, whereas Whyte is appearing to get better, and, you know, is coming into his prime years typically. So I think the momentum probably is in Whyte's favour, but I do agree that Pulev is quite a long way ahead in terms of skills.
Like,
so you'd have to make Pulev a favourite.
But I mean, did you see the Kevin Johnson fight?
I did.
He didn't look good in that fight.
He won every minute of every round.
He didn't, mate.
He did.
He didn't win every minute of every round,
Johnson.
and he couldn't stop him. I mean, Kevin.
He had Johnson on the ropes, leaning back for like the whole fight, like literally the whole
fight. I didn't think he looked good in that fight, and he hasn't fought since, unless I'm mistaken. Let me just box check it. I don't think he's fought.
He hasn't. That was a year ago.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not saying I'd pick him, but I'm saying he's got. I think Dylan's got a chance. I think I'd give him more of a chance to beat Pulev than I would to beat Ortiz.
Yeah, Ortiz beats the living shite out of Dillian Whyte. That's the fight I want to see. I want to see Ortiz versus Dillian Whyte. There's all this shit talking we got to listen to from all these matchroom fanboys all over the place, saying that Dillian Whyte's being talked by this man, he's going to win a world title. Like, you know, Ortiz will beat he'll beat the career out of him.
I just don't understand why Ortiz is back in the mix. I don't understand why the WBC do this. They've done it with a few people. So now we could end up with Whyte versus Ortiz, and then fucking Wilder versus Ortiz again, with Ortiz about a year older.
Yeah, and we had Thurman Porter.
Yeah, why Sean Porter getting how many shots has he had?
Thurman Porter, Thurman Garcia. You know, it's just the same faces going round, isn't it?
It's always the WBC. I don't understand why. I mean, they let Adonis Stevenson sort of like sit on that fucking title for what was it, about 2 years or something?
There were certain articles suggesting it was 4 years. They were suggesting Adonis Stevenson's last mandatory was Tony Bellew.
Well, I mean,
what a mandatory though, boys. What a mandatory.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is with the WBC. They're just fucking ridiculous. They're ridiculous.
I'm just glad that Tony Bellew fight, that he got home safely to his wife and kids.
Yes. Well, we're going to have a David Hay, Tony Bellew special next week, discussing every inch of that fight. So that's one for all of you guys to...
I'll tell you now, boys, I probably would be here next week. Not because I'm doing anything. It's just because it's about the worst pay-per-view of all time.
You see the gloves are off? Does any of you see the gloves are off yet?
I was hanging up some curtains today, and I put it on, and I watched it when I was hanging up some curtains. And I don't know, my arms got tired hanging up the curtains, but my ears are more tired listening to the pair of those fucking gobshites.
Dear. Yeah, I didn't think it was a vintage gloves are off. Unfortunately, I thought it was.
When was the last good one? When was the last good gloves are off?
Frotch Groves. Might not have been a good one since that.
Was it Chisora Whyte? Was that the last good one?
Chisora Whyte, yeah. There's been some horrible ones, like Eubank Spike O'Sullivan goes down for me as one of the worst.
Or Joshua Klitschko, man. Joshua Klitschko was dreadful.
Yeah.
There's been a few howlers, haven't there? Yeah.